a great question today in the Learning with Apologia curriculum Facebook group. And so it made me want to put together a video with a few things related to strong math students. I know I get lots of questions about kids who hate math or kids who are struggling, but I also do have parents who reach out to me who are freaking out a little bit because their kid's really good at math and how they handle that and how fast they let them go and just a whole different set of concerns. So I put those all together in here with chapters so you can look below and skip to the questions that interest you. Before I jump in though, I mentioned that Facebook group. So if you are on Facebook, there is a Learning with Apologia curriculum group that is amazing. It's super active and there's lots of Apologia math families on there answering questions faster and better than I can. So I definitely recommend that. I'm also on Facebook. My Facebook page is linked below. I'm on Instagram. I decided to link that below. And this channel is relatively new. So if you want to click and subscribe, that'd be great. What should you do if your child wants to do more than one math lesson a day? Well, first of all, yay. This was my whole goal. Actually, I did have a real goal when I wrote the program of kids begging to do math, kids pulling their math off the shelf and saying, I want to do math first. So if your child is asking to do more than one lesson today, I have succeeded in some ways. But here's the deal. I think it's fine. All right. I don't think you need to really worry about it. If kids want to do 2 lessons or even 3, and they're going through the whole lesson completely, they're not skipping the activities or anything like that, it's great. You don't want them to skip opening activities because a lot of learning happens in those in Apologia math. And so if you just have them do the practice, they're not fully learning the material the way it was designed to be learned. Also, you definitely don't want them to skip the skills practice. That's that 5 to 10 minute review that's explained in the teaching guide. So if kids are doubling up lessons, they may need a few extra days on the skills practice. Because if you look at the pacing guide in the teaching guide, you'll see that I've allocated maybe 2 weeks on a certain skill. And if they're doubling up lessons, they're not getting a full 2 weeks. What's the matter with that? Well, most kids need that type of spaced practice, spaced repetition to fully master the skill. So you might need to add a few more days of just working on those facts before they move on to the next chapter, for instance. With kids doubling up, the other thing you just want to be aware of is you don't ever want them skipping days because they doubled up on other days. Math, like many of the skills subjects, really all of them, needs to be learned a little bit at a time each day. So while it's okay to do an extra lesson, it doesn't work well to do 3 lessons on Monday and then not do a lesson Tuesday or not do a lesson Wednesday. So I am, with my own kids, setting a schedule that gets us through the book in a year with 1 lesson a day. And if one of them wants to do a second lesson or a 3rd lesson, it's fine, as long as we're never falling behind the original schedule I set. If they get through the book in half a year, yeah, it does mean that you'd have to go get another book, which I realize, is an inconvenience, but it's okay for kids to be getting through this series if they're really strong in math and they get through it faster, but they've learned everything. That's great. There's so much math out there for them to learn. And it could be just putting them on a path of accelerated math in middle school and high school, which I think is wonderful. What if you have a strong math student who doesn't want to use the manipulatives? This is common, right? Especially if you're a little stuck because they're getting the problems right without the base 10 blocks or without modeling it first. So here's what I do in my house. I say, okay, here's the practice page. You're supposed to use base 10 blocks to do these problems. You can do them without the base 10 blocks, but then we're going to check. And any problem you get wrong, you need to rework with the manipulative. So that kind of solves things for me, because if they are able to get it right, then they do have the mental processing to do it without the manipulatives. And I don't want to frustrate them by making them use the manipulatives. But if they miss a problem, acting it out with the manipulatives is going to help them learn how to do it really well. So it's kind of a win-win. All kids move through that progression of concrete, pictorial, abstract. A lot of times kids who struggle, they move through it more slowly. And so they need the concrete, they need the manipulatives and the pictures longer. And other kids who have made the connections faster, who are stronger in mathematics, they still went through the progression, but really fast. And they're already in the abstract, doing it in their head. And so they feel a little held back if you keep making them do the manipulative. So it's okay, it's okay to change things up a little bit, especially if they're getting the problems right and you're feeling good about their level of understanding. Can we skip stuff like entire chapters? Yes, I'm getting this question, especially from families who are switching into the series midstream, like level 3, level 4, and you are looking at what lies ahead and you think your kid knows some of it. So you should definitely watch my other video about how to choose the right level that will address this more directly. But in general, yes, it is okay if you feel confident that your child knows a skill really well, you could skip a whole chapter. It is a balance. Review is really good for kids, but if you give too much review, they get frustrated, you slow them down too much, and they don't have that nice level of challenge that keeps them interested. So with levels 4, 5, and soon 6, there are chapter tests. So one thing you could do is have them do a chapter test before the chapter. And if they did really well, that's a good sign that they don't really need to do the chapter, something like that. But you know your kid best, and this is the strength of homeschooling, that if you're feeling an instinct of like, I don't think they need this whole chapter on this, then you could have them skip it. Okay, finally, if you have a strong math student, get excited, right? We need Christians in the STEM-related fields. We need Christian engineers, Christian doctors. And so I'm excited that you're homeschooling and you're just able to let this kid launch, and we'll see how God uses them, especially with this gift for mathematics. And finally, I say this on a lot of videos, but I feel like I should just always say it. Just remember that the curriculum was made for you, and we are not expecting you to follow this certain mold of how you're supposed to do Apologia Math. We are providing Apologia Math as a tool and hopefully as a blessing to your family, but use it how you want, right? You know your kid way better than I did, and I love hearing how kids and families are adapting it and making it suit their needs.